right.
We gotta.
Yes, we're live. There we go.
Live? Yeah, we got it. We got to get going. My chai level is getting at a critical low, man.
Oh my God! If your chai level gets below a certain threshold, we all know what happens through it.
Exactly. And I've been in Seattle, so it's only gotten worse in the last few days.
You've got some premium chai coursing through you.
Dude, I went down to the Starbucks Reserve Roastery and Tasting Room today. It's funny, every chai, and trust me, I've gotten like six chies from 6 different Starbucks since I've been in Seattle since Friday.
All right.
And they all taste exactly the same as every chai I've ever had in Austin. And then I go to the Starbucks Reserve Roastery and Tasting Room and taste nothing like a chai I've ever had before.
In a good or bad way?
Well, it wasn't bad. I mean, there's, chais come in all kinds. Starbucks just is this kind.
All right.
And this wasn't. And so, it's just like, go to McDonald's and you get a Big Mac and it tastes, even more like crap than it usually does.
Sweet.
Anyway, so we're on WebDM.
We're on WebDM. You're in Seattle.
I'm in Seattle for Geek Bowl.
For Geek Bowl.
For those that don't know, it's Geeks Who Drink Trivia. But, didn't do as well as we wanted to do. But
all right.
Finishing 39 out of 212 teams isn't terrible. That's top 20.
Not terrible.
Top 20%.
It's really good.
That's all. That's what I've been telling myself to
represent Hobo Goat family.
Yeah, Hobo Goat family represent. Yeah.
Sweet.
And big shout out to what's his name? Bradford in Seattle.
Oh, our fan that we ran into.
First time I've ever been recognized in public.
One of our viewers.
First time ever been recognized in public for WebDM. So, buddy, you were my first, and I pretty much remember it. I was really drunk. It is Geeks Who Drink Trivia. But yes.
Very good.
That was a lot of fun.
Very good. So we're here to talk some Dungeons and Dragons as well, yes?
Yeah, let's talk Dungeons. Nobody wants to hear my BS. Yeah, so we're continuing our UA series, our Unearthed Arcana series, and this is going to be the Fighter. Now, quick caveat.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and get this out. Let's go ahead and rip this Band-Aid off. This is going to be part 1 because there are 7 Unearthed Arcana Fighter archetypes.
Yeah, and I'm suspicious that there's not an 8th floating around some unnamed or forgotten Unearthed Arcana that I don't remember. Yeah. But this is going to be the one that was on the most recent Unearthed Arcana Fighter article that came out the last few months. And then we'll get to the ones that were in Kits of Old and whatnot.
Yeah. So we will be covering the Arcana Archer, the Knight, the Scout or Samurai, and then the Sharpshooter.
Right. Yeah.
So those are the 4 we'll be covering, and we'll get to the others next week. So now that we know where we're going, Jim Davis,
what's up?
You always have a problem with fighters in D&D or the paths that have come before because there is not a viable ranged option for the fighter.
A lot of times,
Yeah. In this release, we have 2. Arcana Archer. What do you like about it?
I mean, what I like about the Arcana Archer is that it's not just like a third caster, that meant to boost your sharpshooting crossbow expert using, a ranged fighter that you make. It's a different kind of thing. So it reminds me a bit about, say, the Battle Master in terms of the sort of abilities that you can pick and choose, and get to use. And so I like that part of it. It's not just more spell casting, but it is an obviously magical subclass. And so, I mean, in that respect, I'm really excited about it. I'm glad that it's here. I was wondering when there was going to be sort of magical ranged fighter support, what it would look like, and so in that respect, I like the concept, and for the most part, like the subclass. But the one thing about it that I really am kind of lukewarm on is how often they get to use their arcane shot.
You think it's too often?
No, it's too infrequent.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
you know what I mean? It's like if I'm playing an Arcane Archer, in much the same way if I'm playing an Eldritch Knight or a Blade Singer or any other combat magician type character, then I've kind of come to expect over the years that you'll be able to do something magical every round. So if it's an Eldritch Knight or a Blade Singer, they have the melee cantrips.
Yeah.
If it's like an Evoker or something, they've got attack cantrips there. And so this is one where I really kind of, I like the arcane shot options that are given to me. I think they're too powerful to be used at will, but it would be nice to have an obviously magical attack that I can use at will with an Arcane Archer. And that's really my main gripe about the concept, is that there's not something that I can do every round that's obviously magical.
Some version of a cantrip, like you said.
Yeah, some version of a ranged weapon cantrip would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, going with what they have though, you at 3rd level, you start out with your arcane arrow, and you start out. You can do it twice per short rest, which is kind of on par with like a warlock. So you get that there, and the options that you get to choose from. Yeah. Of the arcane shots. Don't know if you want to go through them one by one. Because I don't know, because to me, all of them, they all have some,
they all have some use, and I like that that there are some that I have obvious sort of tank or defender type uses. Obviously, the defending arrow, but also beguiling or the brute bane.
Yeah, the brute bane.
All of those you can imagine a type of Arcane Archer who primarily is the ranged defender of the group. Particularly given the fact that they're a fighter, they can obviously be wearing as much armor as they like. They've got everything else that fighters get: the hit points, the armor proficiencies, even if they're dex based. There's some break point where medium armor is still good for your dex based fighter. If you can't necessarily maybe get. Anyway, a lot of options for the fighter here in terms of their armor class. So it's not like they're a frail sort of character that the Arcane Archer is built on top of. It's built on top of the fighter class. Right. So you can have that sort of ranged defender who's locking down enemies, making life difficult for the big bads, and then sort of sniping and picking off the secondary threats while leaving the trash minions to your evokers and your sorcerers and your other AoE type classes. Yeah. So in that respect, I think Arcane Archer works well and kind of hits that mark. I just wish I could use an arcane shot every time I pull down my bow. That'd be pretty sweet.
Well, yeah, but you did just say that you maybe not do it every round.
I mean, they're a little powerful for that. So I'm thinking like my favorites are probably the piercing and seeking arrows. Yeah. And so both of those I can see if I was going for a more offensive type Arcane Archer. Those would be probably my first two picks.
Bursting, having a burst shot also, if you're going offense, would be one way to go.
I can see it doing it sort of as a backup. You need some kind of backup AoE, or you just want the option to take out, like, say, a tight cluster of enemies, or just sort of as an opening shot. I can see burst doing really well. And I think that there's probably some fun things to be had with beguiling, or sorry, not beguiling, but the illusory arrow, the one that limits their the shadow arrow.
Oh, shadow arrow, yeah.
Particularly if you're playing one of those 5th edition games where the range of dark vision, like everybody in the party has dark vision, you're in the dungeon, there's no light sources. Something like that might be good to tag an enemy with for that turn, allowing the party, say, to get closer, or to, find some way to take advantage of the fact that their vision is now limited to 30 feet. that could be. So when I look at all of the arcane shots, I think they're all interesting. They've all got something going on. They give me options. They're not just like the battle master maneuvers converted into, trick shots. It gives me something interesting to do, and it's not like, my high-level arcane archer is eventually going to be doing one of these once a minute, which is functionally, 2 or 3 times per fight. So I think in actual play, the fact that they're limited to such narrow option, the number of times they could shoot an arcane shot is limited. Probably isn't that big a deal. It looks big on paper, but I bet in actual play, it's going to be less of a deal than it seems like it is. Right.
So moving on past like that one ability, the arcane shot.
Right.
We do now see them trying to give the fighter something else to do with their other 3rd level ability, Arcane Archer's Lore. You actually get some extra skills.
Skills. It's one of those things where we'll see this also with the knight and the samurai, the attempt to sort of make sure that the conceptual niche that your fighter fits into, that they've got the skills to back that up, and I really appreciate that. I like skills. I've always been a favor an expansive and detailed skill list and access to skills. So anything that gives you options, particularly if they're nice, just role playing options, or they justify something for your character that you maybe didn't want to spend a background choice on, or one of your skill picks.
Yeah,
that's kind of nice to have.
Oh, most definitely. And then at 7th level, you get conjure arrows, where you never have to worry about lugging arrows around.
It's a nice little ribbon ability. Yeah, I've always got some arrows.
And especially like if you're playing with a DM, like, at first it's like, yeah, okay, you get arrows. Well, if you're playing with a DM that's kind of a stickler and you get stuck down in a dungeon somewhere,
right?
Did you have a bag of holding with 800 arrows in it? No.
Right. No.
Well, then you're going to run out, and then what? Right. You're going to be making arrows out of what? Bone and stone.
Yeah. So it's a nice little just I've always got a quiver full of arrows. I think that the number of groups who probably make their archers count arrows is vanishingly small. But I do think it's worthwhile, DMs, to make your archers count their arrows.
Yeah.
And so having an ability like this in a game where resource management is key, obviously is going to be pretty sweet. And just it's a neat little ability that you can have.
Right. But then, the next, you get more arcane shots. When is that?
That's at 15th level. The ever ready arrow.
Yeah, along with ever ready arrow.
Yeah.
So you finally get what, one more use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
if the fight's gonna last
a minute, though, it's got to be a minute later.
Right.
But I agree with you with this class. I completely agree.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you would fix it. That's the thing.
I think you would just say, okay, they start out, they get 2 per short rest, and maybe at maybe ever ready arrow is the exact same, and it gives you a 3rd use.
Instead of a minute later?
Well, even keep just a minute later. I don't see, most fights aren't going to last more than 10 rounds. It happens. We've had fights at tier 4 and above that lasted 11, 12 rounds. Mm-hmm. So if an arcane archer was in one of those fights, they would have gotten an extra use of their arcane shot. But I think most fights are probably over before 10 rounds have passed.
Yeah.
Even at that high level.
Yeah,
maybe especially at that high level.
Yeah, so it's really just more of you blew your wad in the fight.
Yeah.
But as soon as the fight's over, if something else were to come along, you're ready again.
Yeah.
Just in case.
At the same time, none of these arcane shot abilities, they don't last that long when they impose some kind of effect.
Yeah.
They're not if you were to allow them, say, 3 times a combat or even 4 times a combat, it's not like you're breaking the game over your knee and you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
There might be some combination of feats and magic and arcane shot that just makes like a ridiculous kind of character. But I imagine those are corner cases that most DMs aren't going to have to deal with.
Right. And, and then the class, it rounds out at 18th where you increase the force damage of your arcane arrow.
Right.
And so, there's that.
Yeah.
You're doing an extra 46 on whoever, you're popping with that thing. And so, it's a good burst.
It's a good burst. And it's, like I said, it's not so much that you're going to be, I don't know. I kind of am of the opinion that ranged combat is sort of superior in 5th edition. So it might be that the Arcana Archer is just kind of gilding the lily at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's over the top or anything like that. It's a nice class. I just like to see more arcane shots. But otherwise, I think it's a great take on the archetype, and our benchmark is, does this inspire me to make a character and play? And in this case, the Arcane Archer is like, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. Because I've been torn because I totally want to play a ranged fighter, but I've been torn between the Arcane Archer and the Sharpshooter. They're two totally different takes, but both would be a lot of fun.
Both would be a lot of fun.
But before we get there, let's go on to the knight.
To the knight.
The knight in shining armor. Astride your mount.
Astride your mount. So let's look at the knight. I mean, knight is one of those classes that, if I'm remembering right, sort of introduced in 3rd edition. And in 3rd edition, they had a similar feel. They were a tankier type class.
Right.
Not really sure how they were presented, if at all, in 4th edition. So I can see in 5th edition they're coming back and saying, like, yeah, the knight is a heavily armored fighter, dominating the battlefield, challenging the most strongest foes. This is a class, if you miss that defender role, that strong defender role that fighters had in 4th edition, or you're coming from video games or MMOs and you're like, that's your framework for understanding RPGs, and this is sort of what you're looking for, I can see why the knight would appeal to someone. As is, I'm not like hot on it. I probably would never really play a knight. But it's interesting to see how the abilities would sort of work out. I think you could potentially end up with a ton of reaction attacks, depending on where you positioned yourself on the battlefield, what kind of weapon you're using. And so it could be interesting. I don't know. I'm also of the opinion that they should have just, if they weren't going to make this like a historically based knight, like they say in the sidebar, then I think they just should have gotten rid of any pretense that these guys are supposed to be mounted and just stuck with, this guy is the defender, full stop. Don't worry about leave that to the cavalier, who does mounted combat very well.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, that's we'll get to that one next week.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. What do you think?
Do you think that, because we don't really do a lot of mounted combat in our games,
really.
Even when we have some people that will have a mount.
Yeah.
I mean, the DM will work it in, but it's just not, because the majority of the party isn't on a mount.
And I can't ever remember a time that we ever did play that way, even going back as far back as 2nd edition, where it seemed like mounts were more common in the game just overall.
Yeah.
I can't ever remember us running combats or having encounters where being mounted was essential. So much of the game takes place in these cramped conditions where being mounted is obviously completely unhelpful, if not even impossible.
Right.
Mounted just never was my cup of tea. Even though historically mounted combat is incredibly important and blah blah blah. It just hasn't translated into the fantasy tabletop environment that sometimes takes inspiration from. So I don't know, that I'm Born to the Saddle and some of the other abilities.
Yeah, I mean, Born to the Saddle, if that's what you're doing, normally it takes half your movement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To mount. So you're only using 5 feet. That's generally depending on the character you're playing, obviously, but you're cutting that by 66%. So that's cool if you're into that.
Yeah.
And also the whole if you're falling off, if you avoid it,
you don't have to make that deck save.
You don't have to make that deck save. So that's important.
Nice, I guess.
So the markability, implacable mark.
Yeah.
That one, it's pretty neat, but it feeds into, like you said, the defender role. I mean, you're basically daring a guy like, hey, you need to come over here.
Yeah. And it's got some odd wording. You have to be DM should be familiar with what the difference between a round and a turn is. When you can use this ability, when you can't, how it interacts with Hold the Line, which is another reaction ability. So it's kind of a complicated when you can use it, when you can't, if you're not that familiar with the rules. So, new DMs, you're trying out this material, just make sure you're familiar with how reactions work, what a turn is, what a round is, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, could you clear a little of that up, maybe the wording? Because we're going to get that question.
Yeah, we're going to get that question. So my instinct is to say figure it out, but then why are you watching our videos?
look it up, dear. And then they're sitting there like, but wait, I'm looking this up, so you'll tell me.
So here we see an implacable mark. You can make this special attack even if you have already expended your reaction this round, but not if you've already used your reaction this turn. So what I see that as is like, I've already used my reaction for the round. Remember, a round is once every creature has acted in the initiative order, that is a round. Within that round, creatures and PCs and NPCs take individual turns. I have a turn, you have a turn, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
So it's saying,
it's
already
my
used your
turn.
reaction.
And then it's your turn.
Now it's your turn, but you've already used your reaction. That's fine. You used your reaction last turn. This turn, you get to use a special type of reaction. And so that's sort of where the confusion might come in. So just make sure DMs, when you're sitting down, maybe you have a player who's going to take advantage of this class, they want to try it out, that both of you are on the same page about what that means when they can use these special attacks. Because otherwise, I mean, in third edition, it was possible to build a character who had an incredible number of opportunity attacks per round and got all these special abilities on opportunity attacks. Like in late era third edition, you could make a fighter who is basically built around opportunity attacks. Of course, there's the spike chain wielding, string attacking monstrosity that some people tried to play. So if you're one of those players and that's kind of what you like, this might be a subclass for you to get that kind of, or if you're a DM and you like playing legendary monsters and you find yourself at the table and you're missing those extra actions, then maybe the night is for you.
Most definitely. And go ahead and throw in what is it, Sentinel and Polar Master.
Oh yeah, I imagine you can make a beast of a knight in that regard.
Oh yeah.
So in that respect, it does what it says on the tin. It's a heavily armored fighter that locks down big bad guys and makes life miserable for them while the rest of the party wails on them.
Yeah, exactly. And also they're learned. Fighter, because at 7th level, you get some more skills to round out your character. And then Hold the Line, as we were talking, further expands that ability.
Yeah, and really what you're doing now is unlocking a bunch of different reaction attacks.
Right.
So this is where if you're a great weapon wielder, this is going to vastly increase your damage output if you're using that damage bonus there. All these reaction attacks.
Yeah, getting that extra fighter level in damage.
Yeah.
Also reducing speed to 0, which actually is also duplicating. What is it? Which? Oh, that's Sentinel. So, yeah, that's right. That's right. You don't technically need Sentinel.
You don't technically need it, but maybe
Sentinel light.
Yeah. In a way, in the same way that sort of Sharpshooter is the archetype is sort of basically that feet stretched out. Hold the line can be seen the same way with similar way with Sentinel. Different options. It's different paths getting to the same point.
Yeah, it's true. And then at 15th level, Rapid Strike, which is an ability that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And then everyone else gets it. They're doing.
Here's what I
it's the divine strike of the fighter.
Right, it's the divine strike of the fighter. Absolutely. I don't know. I'm looking at Rapid Strike and I'm going. Costs a bonus action. That rules out getting to use it if you're a 2-weapon wielder, which I don't know how many people are playing 2-weapon wielders, but I don't know. I look at it, it's like this seems like a mechanic that they were like, that the developers were like particularly keen on. They were like, we're just going to put it in all 3 of them and see what people think about it. Well, I don't know. Like, what do you like about it? What is it that?
What I like about it is it unlocks a bonus attack for people who aren't 2-weapon wielders.
All right,
for your archer or your greatsword wielder or your sword and border. If you don't want to hit, use your shield and go that way. If you want to make another attack, I mean, get into advantage and then get an extra attack. I mean, you're towing the line between getting a crit, like it's another attempt to get a crit versus rolling 2 dice to get a crit. Like what's more important to you? And to me, it's just the opportunity for more damage. I mean, anytime you're adding another attack, hey, why not? Why not? I don't know. It's just, but the ubiquity of it is what's kind of like, instead of it being kind of a special thing, it's like, why not, why wasn't this originally in the fighter and the fighter gets this at whatever level, and then you give each different path a thing, because then it just like, it's just one thing in every path is the same, like Divine Strike.
I definitely see what you're talking about.
But I think it's a cool rule. I mean, I think it's a cool ability, though.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think for me, what prevents it from being like, I don't know, what prevents it from solidifying in my mind is the fact that if there was only a way that it interacted with the subclass's ability to grant themselves advantage. Does that make any sense? So then you have an option. It's like, okay, without needing anyone else's help, I can choose between these 2 modes of fighting, accuracy or aggression. And so like I'm looking at it, it's like, you get advantage on your reaction attacks, but you can't use a bonus action on your reaction, and nothing about Rapid Strike suggests it's meant to be used on reactions.
Oh, no, it's on your turn.
Yeah, it's similar when Samurai gets Rapid Strike, and the fact that their bonus action that would give them advantage. I'll get to in a second. But so I don't know. I think maybe Rapid Strike. I'd want to see it in action. I want to see how it plays out at the table. I suspect it's one of those abilities that, if you're a player who likes having options, who wants to have different round around different choices they get to make with how they approach a fight or how they approach their character, you might really like Rapid Strike. But just looking at it on paper, kind of lukewarm on it. Yeah,
well, also I think it would depend on how each at each individual table, how they handled that. I mean, or do they play like we do, where we kind of use the optional flanking rule, where you just need to be on either side of someone and you're flanking and you both get advantage. Whereas in the core book as written, you actually have to give the help action to do that. So it's a little bit bigger deal to actually get advantage and then to be able to actually use that ability. So, I think it would be fun. But that's just me. And it's also, it's a 15th level, so you're already getting a lot of attacks anyway.
Right. That's very true. Yeah. You're going to have a sick amount of attacks.
Yeah. Sick, bro. And then, last ability, the Defender's Blade. This is where you, even if you've used your reaction,
Mhm.
You get to
You get to
use it
do
again
one of these. Yeah, you can use
as long
it
as it
again.
wasn't on that turn.
Yeah.
But you'd also get another bonus to AC, which everybody loves more AC. So
Everybody loves more AC, and anytime you can boost your AC once you hit that AC 20 mark, every point of AC you can get above that is usually golden. You get a lot of bang for your buck with that. So even getting like an AC 21, 22 is gonna make a lot of difference in terms of the enemies who can and can't hit you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Knight for me, I find it mechanically sound, but conceptually meh. Unlike say the Arcana Archer, where like conceptually I'm like, man, this is cool, but mechanically I'm like, there's the changes I make. I feel like kind of opposite for the Knight.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, what about the Samurai then?
And so the Samurai is my of all four of these is the one I'm most excited to play.
I've heard you talk about it. I knew you couldn't wait to get here.
Pretty fun.
Honor us then, Jim, with your thoughts on the Samurai.
Yeah. So I like the identity they gave it. So when I first read this the article, it's kind of like, all right, they're ignoring the historical precedents of knights and samurai, and I can see why. There's a lot of baggage there, a lot of disagreement over what's a samurai, what's a knight, what do they look like, how did they fight. They span centuries in time. Anyway, I would not want to have the burden of trying to translate a historical knight or samurai into a class mechanic. So I like that they're going with a feel for something popular culture history. I'm assuming that there's some stuff with samurai that's based on anime. I'm not an anime. I watched like 2 anime ever, whatever. And so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I like the idea that this is someone whose fighting spirit, whose willpower, whose drive and inner focus is what makes them a good fighter, and how it's different enough than a barbarian. It's not frenzy, it's not rage, but it is overpowering and ferocious. I don't know. I really like the everything about this archetype. Even the rapid strike, I'll take it. It's fine.
Well, it to me it makes sense. I mean, it could make sense in any of these, which is why I guess they gave it to all the remaining 3.
Right.
But again, why isn't it just attached to the main chassis of the fighter?
Absolutely.
But that's, who cares? That's nitpicking. But okay, sorry, 3rd level, fighting spirit.
Fighting spirit.
Let me tell you something. You can rock and roll for just a bit if you just need to just like end something really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, resistance, advantage on all your attacks, resistance on BPS, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, until the end of your next turn. So for 2 rounds.
2 rounds. Yeah.
You get to be just
this is what you get.
This fierce beast of a man or woman.
Yeah.
I don't know, and you get it 3 times. Short or long rest. What I mean.
Short rest. Yeah. What's not to like?
I really like that for a fighter, and it couples with their later abilities we'll get to. But
this is borderline one of those where I look at this ability and I go, I would want this on so many melee characters. I can probably get resistance cheaper by dipping into barbarian, but then I got to deal with rage and all this other stuff, and I already have anger issues.
Yeah,
and I just want to fight.
Exactly.
So, I think that 3rd level, it's a deep dip, but I can see paladins, rogues, lots of classes. Really, of course, you're also getting 3 levels. Just getting action surge, just getting a second wind. All of the proficiencies that fighter gives you depending on when you took the class. So I think fighting spirit's a really awesome ability, and I think it complements the base fighter well. And 3 times, that's fine. Get back on a short rest. I bet for the most part you'd use this 2 or 3 times a fight, and you'd use it in those moments where get the most out of your attacks, and or if you need to bear the brunt of the enemy's attacks for a round or two.
Mm-hmm. Or I mean, especially once you get to 5th level and get that second attack.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a bonus action to use, but then on your second round, if you're a fighter that uses 2 weapons and use your bonus attack for an attack, and you use action surge and all that, I mean, you're talking about throwing out quite a few attacks, all with advantage.
Yeah.
All while you have resistance. So I mean,
Yeah, you're gonna be a fighting machine for a while. It's a really great ability, and I think that it's perfectly in line with the sort of thing that fighters are good at, which is just point them at the enemy and watch the enemy die.
Exactly.
And so this just makes them better at that.
Absolutely. And then at 7th level, in the continuing tradition with these UA fighter archetypes, you get some skills.
Got to get that level 7 ribbon ability, man.
Because you have to know the Bushido code.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be living in the Bushido world. For all you out there, you can also get the Hagakure. It is the way of the samurai, and that, let me tell you, it'll make you appreciate not living in the samurai world. Because you'd probably just have to kill yourself, even if
you might just have to, or but that's any world where people carry around giant pieces of sharpened metal and have a strong sense of honor is not a world that you really want to be in.
Yeah,
maybe you do. Maybe that's just your kind of cup of tea.
Well, a quick aside, and then we'll get back to this. One of my favorite parts in that book, because of course there's the things where you're not supposed to take life and all that. So you have the people that dishonor their master and start a fight, and it's like, hey, we started this fight, and you're like, okay, well, you dishonored me. You must commit seppuku, right? And then you have the stories of the guys coming back from the bar. They're like, oh, so and so's pupils talk crap about you and started a fight, and so then we defended your honor and we killed them. And then the master's like, you did the right thing by defending my honor, but you drew life, or you drew blood and ended a life, so that's dishonoring me. Commit seppuku.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting line. Runs right along a razor's edge. But with swords like that, I guess you gotta live that way. I don't know. It's an enjoyable read. I'll say that. If you love the art of war, it's a little different. It's just kind of parables and stories, but good God, it's just like
it could be great fodder for your character. You never know when reading something like that will spark a character idea.
Also, Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai, Forrest Whitaker, the great movie. Anyway. Back to real samurai.
Oh man, we are out of it. Elegant Courtier. It's a nice ability, and I think it's you get a proficiency, but also the ability to add your wisdom modifier. It's just kind of I can see myself playing a noble samurai. And just diving right in and just being like, that's just who he is. He's at home in the throne rooms and courts of the world, as well as the battlefields.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I'd say, okay, so moving on to Unbreakable Will, 10th level.
10th level.
I really like this. I really like this ability. Because gaining proficiency in another saving throw, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. That gives you proficiency in con and will, or in wisdom saves. Con and wisdom are some of the worst effects that you could ever have to experience as a player. Incredibly debilitating effects, or taking control of your character away from you. So getting proficiency on that, particularly because 5th edition has a real problem with saving throw proficiencies, in my opinion. Like you can easily be a 20th level character and have a +0 in a critical save. That some groups and some campaigns, that can be a real problem. For others, maybe not so much. So getting that extra save is pretty sweet.
It's very true. 15th level Rapid Strike. We talked about it. It's back.
Can't use it with Fighting Spirit, which is a shame. It'd be neat to like be able to bust out your Fighting Spirit and then you know. But I guess if you can use it on the second round. Right?
On the second round, you'd be able to use it for Fighting Spirit.
Yeah.
You know, if that was a thing that you needed,
there's some synergy there.
Because otherwise, you would normally not have that attack.
Right.
You know. Again, I really like it. Just wasn't anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So last ability. This is one. It's like, man, to have an ability as a fighter, what more do you want than strength before death?
I love this ability.
Everything. I'm just gonna read it because I remember the first time I read this, I was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like. Right as you just get hit, you're just like, no, son, I got this. I got this. No. I'm going to delay that. I'm going to use a bonus action. I'm going to do the thing, which means I'm going to take half damage on that thing that would have dropped me, right?
Yep.
Exactly. So it doesn't drop me.
You take a bonus turn.
Oh, and you get a bonus fucking turn.
Yeah.
Apologize for the language. Not really, though.
Really. It's a sweet ability. And, last week, last couple of weeks, I haven't been kind about abilities that only work when death is triggered. You know what I mean? Like there's the Twilight Druid and the Grave Cleric that have some interesting interactions with death. And I might have been a little harsh given the fact that I love strength without death or strength before death.
Right.
It might never come up. I hope this would come up like at least 2 or 3 times in a campaign.
Yeah.
Depending on, but there are some campaigns where that 18th level, your fighter's like, I don't know when was the last time I dropped that low, because I don't know, but this is just it's a neat ability. I really like it.
Yeah, and I love how in the description they're even like trying to be like they don't want to just give it away, like you don't take the damage or no, what is it? It's possible to do things such as gaining resistance. Where can I gain resistance from? Anyway, I don't know. It's just a badass ability in the fact that you just get to stop what they're doing, get a whole turn. And then, all right, we'll continue, and then it'll be my turn again.
And then it'll be my turn again. Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you use your warriors, your warriors or your fighting spirit, you'll have advantage on that too.
Yes.
So why not? Anyway. All right. So take an aim at the last one here. Sharpshooter.
All right, Sharpshooter.
Okay.
All right.
I really like this.
Sharpshooter, the feat. The Sharpshooter, the feat, the class.
The legend.
The legend.
So yeah, steady aim. It's pretty neat. It is basically
it's the feat.
It's part
of the feat.
Part of the feat. You don't need the feat at first.
You don't need it. The class works perfectly well with it. Certainly. But I don't know. It does what it says. I think with Sharpshooter, I'm just kind of like, okay, I wanted a mundane, non-magical, ranged option. This works perfectly well.
I do kind of wish that there was something a little bit different about the first ability. I do like that it gives you extra damage, but the fact that there is such overlap with the one feat that if you're making a ranged fighter anyway, like I get that, say in our Strahd game we're not using any optional rules, so we're not using feats. So hey, there's no issue at all. Hey, you actually get to find a way to ignore 3/4 and half cover, and you get some extra damage. But if you're not, then to me it's just like, well, you don't really get anything. 3 times a day. You get some extra damage, and that's about it.
You get some extra damage. I can see this one being where if you're taking the Sharpshooter feat, the utility of this class is definitely going to drop. And so I'm,
well, only in the beginning. Everything else in this class is what I love about it. I love Careful eyes. I love the fact that you get a perception check as a bonus. You can do a search check as a bonus action, as a fight. Because that, to me, I love that. I don't know what it is about it, but the thing that's normally reserved for the the rogues and the rangers, or I don't know if rangers actually get that or not.
No, I don't think they get anything comparable to that. In fact, Careful Eyes is one of those where
no.
know who all can make a search action as a bonus action.
No, nobody does. Actually.
Nobody does.
Don't worry, I'm just tired. Sorry, everybody out there. It's been a long weekend. But anyway, just the fact that they get something on a bonus action like that is, I don't know.
So I mean, like, this is a pretty interesting ability because now it's like you're fighting invisible creatures.
Yeah.
This is going to be really helpful for that. Or you are, let's say you're in you're in a combat or something where there's a lot of cover.
Yeah.
A fight that I sometimes like running is a bunch of goblins in a heavily wooded forest with like heavy undergrowth and lots of places to hide, and basically Ewok the party. And so right, a sharpshooter in a scenario like that would definitely be an asset.
Oh yes, where you're constantly making checks. Oh, they're right there.
Constantly making checks. Boom. Yeah.
You're popping it off. And then 10th level, close quarter shooting.
Close quarter shooting. CQS.
Yeah. Well, it's what Snake would learn in the D&D world. Yes.
Right.
Well, anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I know Travis is loving that though. But yes, being able to get up in someone's business and basically you go all equilibrium on that ass with your bow.
Yes. And so I think I like this ability because otherwise the only other option that bow wielders have is to take crossbow expert, which some players might balk at because they're not crossbow experts.
Right.
They are archers.
Exactly.
And so in that respect, it's interesting. Now you can use your bow up close and personal. You can narrate your Legolas-like moves as you stab them through the eye and shoot the guy behind you, and those are the kinds of moves that I imagine close quarter shooting gets you.
Oh yeah, doing stuff like that, stabbing in the leg or whatever. Because then they can't take a reaction, so you can move out of there, get some distance. But yeah, the fact that there's no limit to it, I like that. It's just something you know how to do. It's very utility. Good stuff. 15th, rapid strike. Of course, you got to have rapid strike.
Here we are, back with rapid strike.
More arrows, because why not?
Because why not?
Just
get your Arcana Archer buddy to conjure 20 of them and then steal them.
Yeah. I don't think you can, Jim. I think if they leave your person, they're gone.
They couldn't. You couldn't shoot them from your bow.
Well, no, I'd have to go back and look at the wording, but I think that you have to have them until you shoot them.
I gotcha.
So, and then I'm
Arrow
sorry.
disappears the minute it leaves his bow. It's shit.
Shit.
What kind of crappy Arcane Archer am I?
He hasn't learned to get it to the target yet. That's
right.
He's getting there. He's trying real hard.
He's trying so hard.
Okay, so and then last one, snapshot.
Snapshot.
If you take an attack action on your first round of combat, you make another attack.
Jeez.
So why not?
18th level, how many fighters have their fourth attack by 18th level?
Uh-huh.
So your first turn of combat, you're looking at 5 attacks.
Five attacks, right? Okay, but here...
And then you can take an action surge for an additional 4.
For an additional 4, but remember, if you're attacking from an ambush, you're probably going to have advantage on that.
Oh my god!
So with rapid strike, you could give up that advantage. Go ahead and throw another attack on the end there. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, all of them at potentially. Let's see.
Or I mean, if you have your steady aim, of course, you'd probably want to go with that for the extra damage. But
for the extra damage, but still, maybe that's also why you take the sharpshooter feat.
Yeah, and then oh god, it's just anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, you're pumping out a lot of arrows, but I also expect 18th level archers are basically like Apollo the god has descended and draws his bow of sunlight across the battlefield. Like, you're an 18th level D&D fighter, you're a demigod for all intents and purposes. Yeah, and I expect that that you darken the sky with your arrows whenever you draw your bow.
Yeah,
you're damn well better. You're an 18th level fighter.
Yeah, I know. And so I do love now that there's a conflict of which direction am I going to make my my archer fighter.
You're talking about arrow?
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I finally remake her,
yeah.
So she can jump down another lava chute.
Just it's all right. It's okay.
It still burns, literally.
It always stinks.
And no, Jim, it burned. It was lava. It was lava. God damn it. Anyway. So, as a whole, just a recap of these four archetypes. You obviously love Samurai the best.
Yeah, we like Samurai. I like Samurai the best, but I mean, I find all four of them are they're filling in niches that Champion and Battlemaster and Eldritch Knight aren't giving us. That's right. Number one. Do I like the class? There's a lot of concepts that Champion and Battlemaster cover, and overall really like the fighter class. But this is giving us stuff that allowing us to concepts and niches and mechanics that are new, interesting. At least with the case of Arcana Archer and Samurai, I can envision immediately characters I want to play that use these subclasses. So that's my second criteria. And in that respect, I think this is a good Unearthed Arcana.
I agree.
Gives us some nice options, and I'm excited to see what the finished classes actually look like.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree. And so we're going to be back next week talking about the other three fighter classes that we did not cover this week, which are the Cavalier, the Scout, and
Monster Hunter.
That'll be the third one. So don't worry, that'll be here next week.
And the mystery eighth one that we may or may not exist.
Yeah, and hopefully by then,
but who knows?
But this will give everyone a chance to point that out to us, and then we can make sure it's on there. See,
and do our jobs for us, and that's always why we love you.
And hey, this is a symbiotic relationship. We need y'all as much as you need us. But don't wait. I shouldn't have said that. Shit.
Wait.
Now they know the secret. Anyway. So anyway, Jim. It was fun chatting with you tonight.
Absolutely. Get some rest, man.
You have fun on the East Coast while I'm on the West.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all have a good night. Trav, I love you. Yeah, he's not going to talk.
He's not going to talk.
Oh, well.
Travis came out of his shell already, and he saw his shadow.
And
we're not going to see him again until summer.
Yep, and we're going to have at least 8 more weeks of WebDM, that means. So, hey! I think that was where you should enter the show, Trav. No?
No.
No? We're still going? Okay.
We're still alive.
Are we still alive?
Dude, Torment Tides of Numenera